My presentation is on the applications of advanced technologies to automate travel times or wait times, specifically for our Port Aransas Ferry Operations project. This is my presentation agenda. I'm going to have a little introduction, and then I'm going to touch up on the past, present, and future on where we're headed with this technology, and my conclusion, and I'll end on a safety note since we're all going to be driving back home. Okay, the Port Aransas Ferry. Port Aransas Ferry provides a continuous route along 361 over the Corpus Christi Channel, and that connects Port Aransas and Aransas Pass. Its fleet consists of 8 ferry boats. Six of them are smaller ferry boats that hold about 20 passenger vehicles, and we have 2 larger ferry boats that are fairly new that hold about 28 passenger vehicles. It's a 24/7 operation. We have over 2 million passengers per year. The channel is about a quarter-mile route one way, and it takes less than 10 minutes, but varies during peak season, and that's a whole trip to and from. The highest traffic demands for the ferry occur during holiday and holiday weekends, such as Labor Day, Memorial Day, and during summer vacation months. Wait times can exceed as long as 2 hours, and cube lengths in total can be almost 2 miles. Travel time information is provided to the public, and it becomes very crucial during the peak season. Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are new options that we are exploring to calculate travel times, and we are learning that we're catching more and more devices that have these kind of functions to enable Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So the more devices that are enabled, the better the data we'll get, the better accuracy we'll get for calculating travel times. Oops. Let's see. Okay, so my main topic is the travel time calculations, past, present, and future. I want to go back. I'm going to take you in a flashback on ferry operations, just a little bit of history. These pictures were provided to me from Mr. Howard Gillespie, who's our supervisor for the ferry operations, so he provided these nice pictures. So here's our ferries in the 1920s. The ferry service started actually in 1926. This is a ferry boat called the Mitzi, and it's a 6-car ferry boat. It ran from the Harbor Island to Port Aransas and to Aransas Pass. Here is a pic from the 1930s. This was in 1937. As you can see, we have traffic queues happening in the 1930s. So this is a Tarpon Street and on the Port Aransas side. So I thought that was pretty interesting on looking at that. So just goes to show you that Port Aransas is a pretty popular destination. Here's a pic just of the vehicles boarding and departing the ferry boat. And they had their traffic control technicians too that we still use today. Just another picture of I think this boat's called the Ruby. In the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, in 1951, the ferry service was purchased by the Nueces County, and it inherited 2 ferries and a set of landings. 1961, there was a toll. It was $1 per round trip, and the average vehicles per year was about 250,000 vehicles a year, as opposed to 2 million, right? Let's see. 1968, TxDOT, our state, took over in the month of January, and we inherited 4 ferries and 3 sets of landings, and we discontinued the tolls. And in 1968, the volume or traffic grew from 250 vehicles to 820 vehicles per year. Here's just another picture of our traffic control technicians. We have some signage here, controlling traffic. And this is getting close to today. This is what we are looking at, we have 6 ferry boats. I believe they're all named after past executive directors. And they're the ones that hold about 20 passenger cars. And this is one of our newest ferry boat, the larger one, that holds about 28 vehicles. So I went ahead and did a little bit of a interview, and I asked we have some veterans that are still working in the ferry operations, and so I was kind of curious and asked them, before we had Lone Star, before we had DMSs, before Twitter, Facebook, all of that, how was this handled? Back maybe they took me back maybe about 10, 12 years ago. Really, what they were telling me is they depended a lot on their traffic control technicians that's pretty much managing the traffic as they enter the ferries and guiding them to the staging area. And they would ask the traveling public, how long were you waiting? How long did it take you to get to the, to get on the ferry? And, as time went by, they got to know the locals very well and depended on them, and trusted. Other times, because our traffic control technicians, we're getting new employees, so they could pretty much ask anyone, and they could just probably throw out any number, and how reliable is that? The deckhands, like I said, would dispatch that information via radio to our dispatchers upstairs. They even used our dispatchers would use landmarks. Once we had PTZ cameras set in, our cameras are able to zoom very, very far. And on the Aransas side, they would zoom in on a flagpole. They use a flagpole, and they would be like, okay, if I see this vehicle here, I know the wait time is approximately this. And they know better than we do because they're there every day. So they would use landmarks. The PTZ cameras would also zoom in as to an intersection, signalized intersection, because, like I said, some of those queues can back up to a mile long and spill over to the local streets. So what the dispatcher would do is look at a red vehicle, keep an eye on that vehicle, and as it's moving along the queue, they would figure out that that's the same vehicle they were looking at when it got to the staging area, and then they would look at the time, and then when it got into the boat, and so they would ask their deckhands, hey, go to this vehicle and ask them how long it took. So, or they will do it themselves because they're constantly multitasking with everything else that they're trying to log onto their logbooks. So, it's just the tools they had were cameras, people, and feedback from the employees. Some of the employees would get off their shift work, and they would just kindly report back to them and call them and say, hey, this is how long it took, and that's what they had to work with. Communication wise, they had walkie-talkies or radios that they used. Our dispatchers would manually input the travel times or wait times on our website and the city's website. And before we had dynamic message signs or DMSs, we had portable message signs. And what they were telling me is before Lone Star was even in effect, they would use the vendor software, and they would just go into the website and I guess put in the IP address and get to the vendor software and input the time to program the PCMSs. But it was a headache for them because those message boards would constantly turn, or the light bulbs would go out. They would even get hacked into, so it was a headache. So what we're doing now, 10 years, 12 years later, and what we were strongly encouraged to do by administration and commission for our ferry operations is to come up with some type of solution to calculate these travel times and to automate it in the future. So I'm going to present to you what our pilot test is, what we experienced this year incorporating Bluetooth first and then Wi-Fi. I'm going to go over some of the location maps and where we place these systems at, and the travel time calculations, pretty much the main concept on how these readers calculate travel times, and then go over some information and graphs on the matches and reads that we found with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. First, this is the Bluetooth location map. We had about 6 or 8 locations that we installed Bluetooth readers at, and most of these locations were at traffic signals, like signal cabinets or intersections for power inside the cabinets, and these were at State Highway 361 and Commercial in Aransas. And we also had Cotter and Cut-Off Road, which here, and then Avenue G and Allister, which is Avenue G and Allister is about almost 0.8 miles away from the landing, and we purposely put that there because, like I said, we spillbacks go all the way that far and even further. So these are the locations that we started to implement the Bluetooth readers. And this is just a picture, a schematic of what it looks like, where the reader is, and it's this black little device here. And the cell modem, that's the communication, how it gets, back to the software, and then the antenna here. And there's several different types of antennas you can use for stronger signals. Well, after the Bluetooth readers, we kind of found out that we weren't getting a whole lot of data, simply because we didn't detect a lot of devices that had the Bluetooth enabled. So, if I were to ask you right now, if everybody would take out their phone and see if their Bluetooth was enabled, I bet you half of y'all, more than half, don't even have your Bluetooth enabled, right? Mainly, we probably have Wi-Fi enabled for the most part. So we were thinking, okay, what are we going to do next? We're not really getting good reads with Bluetooth. Let's implement Wi-Fi and see if we see a difference. See if there's a major difference in reads and matches. So we went ahead and took out some of the Bluetooth readers and implemented some Wi-Fi suitcases. They were temporal, they were temporary. And with TTI's help, they really helped us a lot during this project. We picked the locations, or they helped us pick the locations, and we set up the Wi-Fi suitcases. And this is what it looked like. You have your antenna here, and then you have your Wi-Fi suitcase chained to a pole, or so it will not get stolen. And then we had to notify the city just to let their PD know, like, look, looks suspicious, but it's a traffic study. Please don't remove it. And so, we had to go that far just to, explain to them that it's not an explosive or anything of that sort. This deployment began in June this year, June 23rd, 2014, and we had 6 portable cases at 6 locations. They're battery powered, and the life of the battery is about 2 weeks. So the small solar panel would help with the charging, but it was almost tedious to come every 2 weeks to refresh the batteries. So let's see. What happened was, because of the battery life, in TTI, for them having to come back and forth, we just decided to pick 3 locations where we can have power all the time, which are at the 3 signals. Aransas Pass signal, that's at Commercial, one near the Port Aransas Ferry Landing, and Allister. These suitcases these Wi-Fi systems are semi-permanent right now because they're installed in the cabinets. That's a better power supply, and these locations kind of captured the whole segment as you were coming from Corpus, going through Port Aransas to Aransas, and then vice versa. So there are about 7-mile segments, as you can see, and one in between. And of course, this was for minimal deployment. Ultimately, for a really good system, you want to get more. If you want to get more detailed data, we would put a lot more of these permanent locations. But in the future, that's where we're heading. We're most likely going to be putting in some more Wi-Fi at permanent locations. And this is what the Wi-Fi setup looks like. Actually, TTI just came down a couple of weeks ago and replaced their Wi-Fi reader with another type that they're looking at. So this is the reader or the adapter that allows the processor to detect the Wi-Fi signals. And there's the cell modem, which is the communication part, and the antenna. The antenna is the same. It can go with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So some of y'all may know how this all works, some of y'all may not know, but pretty much the basic concept of this is you're in your vehicle or your bike or whatever, and your device is either enabled with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or both. And as it passes the first reader at detection station A or location A, the reader is going to pick up on your MAC address, which is a media access control address. It's a unique code that comes with your device that's provided by the manufacturer. So basically, the reader picks up that signal, and it's time-stamped. And then as you're moving along, when you pass through location B or your destination, reader B in this case, and you know the spacing in between, you can calculate your travel time and your speed. So what happens is the raw information, the raw data, is processed through a complex matching program, and in this case, it's the program developed by TTI, known as the AWAM program, Anonymous Wireless Matching, that identifies the addresses at multiple readers and at locations, and then it calculates the matches. It goes through an algorithm, and it filters and does all kinds of smart things and comes up with the number of matches based off the information, based off the reads that it collects. This applies to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, same concept. So what I've learned from TTI was Bluetooth continually scans for devices in proximity. In the presence of Bluetooth, the MAC address, it basically depends whether or not you have your device enabled. So that's all it takes. If you have something enabled, the Bluetooth is constantly scanning for devices that are enabled with Bluetooth. Wi-Fi, on the other hand, is a little different. It continually listens for devices in proximity, meaning that we have to wait until the device itself, like your iPhone, is requesting to connect to Wi-Fi. So you'll notice that when you go to hotspots, I don't know, at McDonald's or a library, or even here, we have Wi-Fi. So if your Wi-Fi is on, it's going to ask you, do you want to connect to this network? Each device does this request at a different time interval. So there's a chance that your device may not be doing its request when, and I'm going back to the ferries, when you pass point A, hypothetically say you pass at a time when your device is asking to connect and the reader picks you up. So then as you're traveling and you go to location B where the other reader's at, hypothetically speaking, if you're not there at the right time that it's asking to connect, then it won't make a match. It won't read you. So it's almost like you have to be at the right time in the right place. Then you're probably thinking, well, how good is that? Well, what I'm trying to say is, with Bluetooth, when it's disabled, we don't get anything. We don't get any information. With Wi-Fi, I do understand that there's a chance or risk that we're going to be missing a lot of information, but because most people have their Wi-Fi enabled, that's pretty much squashed. We get a lot of reads and information that the sample is high enough to where we get good matches. Because of the detection method of the Wi-Fi, the slower the traffic, the more devices Wi-Fi detects. Simply because if you're in a queue, hypothetically, and you're in an area or in a range where there's a Wi-Fi reader, if it didn't capture you at that point in time where it's asking to connect, just say the rate is every minute, then the next minute it'll capture you because you're still there and you're moving slowly. So it's gonna connect to you, and because traffic's moving slowly, it's gonna connect to more devices than you would if you're traveling, pretty fast. So I don't know if that all makes sense, but here's an example of the Wi-Fi data, and these are not matches, these are reads, and they're 24-hour reads, and and this is a total of all 6 locations that we had installed Wi-Fi up until July the 10th is when we switched out to those 3 locations. But as you can see, beginning on June 23rd up to July 10th, we had as many as 175 reads. That's a lot of reads. And again, let me remind you, it's a total of all 6 locations in both directions. And then when we switched over to the 3 locations, you can see how it kind of decreased a little bit because we didn't have as many as we did previous. But still, we had like 25,000 reads. This is with Wi-Fi. Here is a graph. This is generated with TTI website. They're gathering the information, all the raw data is being processed, is going through TTI's program, and it's getting mapped out. And it's pretty neat because you can pick your segment, pick the direction. You can get your matches, incorporate invalid matches if you wanted to. You can get the speed or the travel time. In this case, you're noticing a graph here that had 892 valid matches in total. Okay. Also, you can see at noontime here, let's see if I can, right in here, the travel time, and this is in seconds. The travel time, this is 4th of July weekend. The travel time was about 43 minutes. So, I mean, like I said, peak holidays, we get long queues. This is pretty much proven. Here are the Bluetooth matches. It's the same segment because I wanted to kind of compare apples to apples on the same 4th of July weekend. And if you notice, previously, on the previous slide, well, let me get down here. If you notice here at 2 p.m., which was our highest number of matches, we had about 33 matches with Bluetooth. If I were to go back to the other graph, we had about 72 matches with Wi-Fi. So at the same time at 2 p.m. So it pretty much doubled. Here's just a graph showing you the same segment from Aransas Past-Ferry Landing to Cotter Cutoff. And here you can just see the dots. These were the matches with the Bluetooth, and then you can see all these little dots, which are a lot more with the Wi-Fi. Well, with all this information, kind of ask ourselves, okay, well, where are we heading? What are we going to do with this travel time information, and what are our future goals and improvements we can make for our ferry operations, because there's always room for improvement. One of the goals that we have is the automation of the ferry travel times or wait times. Basically meaning that our ferry personnel doesn't have to deal with updating the message every 30 minutes or every hour on top of everything else that they do. So we're actually working with our ITS folks in division to automate the travel times and wait times to the DMS boards. And so I had asked the ITS division for some help, and if they can just give me a good picture of what this would actually look like. Basically, this is an overall schematic. This is where we're going to eventually get to soon, right in here, from here to here. I'm going to break it down a little bit. Here we have your device or your vehicle with your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth that gets captured, right? And then it talks through the network, through the cellular modem, and then it connects. It goes to our firewall, and then it goes to our TextDot program. Then, which is Lone Star. Then what happens after that is, after it connects and processes the information with the algorithm, then what it's going to do, it's going to talk. Lone Star is going to talk back through the same network here, through the cell modem. It's going to talk to our DMSs and display that travel time or wait time. So that's where we're heading right now. That's what we're studying. That's what we're going to do after we iron out all the little bugs that we're challenged with. But that's what we want to do. That's going to help our ferry personnel, kind of alleviate them from having to monitor this constantly. Here, and this would be the overall big picture of the devices and the DMSs. Here are locations of all our current DMS boards that we have permanently, and then you'll notice that we have 2 portables here, one on 37 and one near Gregory. And basically we have those there because we may not get a DMS, but the point is, if some of y'all have traveled this summer to Port Aransas, you probably noticed a PCMS sign that said ferry travel times. You're probably wondering, what is that doing there in the middle of nowhere? What it is it gives you an option, depending on the travel time. For example, if it said 1 hour or 45 minutes, it kind of gives you an option on what you want to do. If you wanted to kind of veer off to go through Corpus, continue that route, or you wanted to go through 188, if I'm not mistaken, to cut around through Sinton, if the times aren't that long. I mean, it just helps you make a decision of what you want to do, what options you have. Same thing here in Gregory. If you wanted to come around this way and go, or go somewhere else, I mean, that's going to help you in the future determine, based off the travel times, on what you want to do for your day. I want to share a little bit with you on what happened during the holiday weekend on 4th of July. We had our summer help employees go out there. This is actually on July 6th, that they went out there and they monitored the traffic and figured out where the queue ended. And we had about a mile-long stretch on 361, which is known as cutoff, all the way to the Whataburger here. So that's pretty far, from here all the way to the ferries. And then we also had some spill back here on Cotter, and then the famous loop that's here, right in this area. So this was pretty packed on 4th of July. So the queue length is in total about 360 vehicles total. It's just an estimation. So let me see here. This is a model that TTI did, modeling that queue. Let me see what it looks and what it looked like. So here's the loop. Here's our ferries. Here's the loop. And it's 361. So just to kind of give you an idea of, what the traveling public deals with out there with our current system. So we are in the middle of improving that also. We have been partnering with the city of Port Aransas, and they actually bought some land near our ferry facilities. This is our existing ferries. This is our new building. And so the city came to us and said, hey, we support y'all. We want to help you guys alleviate all that queue, take it off our local streets, and put everyone somewhere. So what we plan on doing is, with that land, after we do our agreements and all that good stuff, we are going to come up with some type of staging or parking area or stacking area, so to speak, to put everyone here instead of here, and having them spill back way over here. So with this land, that's going to help us move everybody out of the way and put them here, and change up our boarding area as well. So this is still a work in progress. We're still determining how it's going to look, how the design's going to look, but it's definitely going to help alleviate the queue and move everyone out of the way and keep folks from impacting the local streets and businesses that are around there. There's several businesses around that area. Here is a picture of what it may look like here. And I'm going to so that's kind of much the overall big picture of how we're going to improve the queue. And here's a model of what it could potentially be. So we may add another exit. I'm not sure. We're going to determine that with the TTI helping us model that information. Well, some of you may think, well, why don't you just build a bridge, right? That'll take care of the problem. I mean, we could if we would, I guess. We have serious traffic coming through, major traffic, and literally, when I say major, it's literally, physically major traffic, like this Kiewit platform that you see here being tugged with tugboats through our channel. From what I've heard, it's about close to 500 feet tall. I mean, our harbor bridge is not even that tall, so that would be a pretty tall bridge. So that's going to rule that out. And here's another example of why we probably will not build a bridge ever across there. So in conclusion, despite the low re-identification rate, the sheer volume of Wi-Fi devices provides adequate sample sizes. Wi-Fi is an acceptable standalone or complementary tool to Bluetooth. Wi-Fi could be used as a supplement to Bluetooth also and increase the sample sizes. We can marry them together. Not only does it's good for travel times, but it's also good for origin destination studies as well for transportation planning, your average speeds on the highways, and of course the travel times. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions or want to send me an email, you can email me. And last but not least, I was highly recommended by my supervisor to somehow put a personal touch on this, so I figured it was appropriate to end on a safety note since we're going home today. So from my family to yours, be safe, drive smart.